Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Nonprofit Resource Hub webinar. Thank you for being a part of today's Nonprofit Resource Hub webinar. My name is Jim McTighe of Lee Nolan. We're affiliated with MassMutual, and we are a proud associate member of the Nonprofit Resource Hub. Who is the Nonprofit Resource Hub? It's a trade association whose mission is to serve, be a resource to, educate, and connect its members to the nonprofit community. At the same time, the Nonprofit Resource Hub serves the nonprofit sector as a bridge connecting nonprofit organizations to each other and to helpful resources. And that's part of what we're doing here today. We provide nonprofits with resources to help their organizations grow and thrive. We share a directory of our associate members. These are vetted, trusted providers and advisors who deliver quality products, services, and education to the sector. Nonprofit Resource Hub hosts networking sessions and events to foster opportunities for collaboration, both with other nonprofit organizations and with experts serving the sector. We encourage each of the nonprofits joining us today for today's webinar to join the Hub as a nonprofit partner. By design, there's no cost for nonprofits to join as our nonprofit partners. When you can, please go to our website to learn about all the benefits at nonprofitresourcehub.org. Thank you to our board members, Serenian Associates, Sir Tillman Ballin, Nonprofit Sector Strategies, Triumph, and Vanguard Insurance Agency. These are our associate members who are listed on the website as well. Without further ado, we are pleased to introduce today's speaker, Jackie Tiso, CEO and founder of JMT Consulting Group. It's all yours, Jackie.
Thank you very much, Jim. And I am very, very excited to be here and share with everyone some tips around successful software implementation. JMT, I'll just tell you a little bit about us. I founded the company 30 years ago. I'm an accountant by background, and the company was actually founded based on experiences that I had myself implementing some software systems, and I knew there had to be a better way. And I worked in nonprofits, so I was on your side of the table. So I'm actually going to talk about thinking about, is it time to replace your software? Some best practices for replacing your software, considering replacing your software, and then implementation. And the implementation part actually is part of that software selection. It is as important as the software itself. So I'm really software agnostic here. I'm an accountant by background, but I'm sharing my knowledge based on any kind of software that you're looking at. And so the idea is that when organizations come to JMT and they talk with us, these are the 6 main reasons that they are struggling and they're thinking about implementing a new system, whether it's a new accounting system, a payroll HR system, a CRM grant management system. These are the pain points. They can't get reporting out. They've got lots of manual work that's being done in Excel or in processes. They can't get the slicing and dicing and visibility to information that they need. That real-time visibility, hugely important, and nothing demonstrated that more than this past 2020 year that all of us went through. The ability to see your information and know what's going on, vitally important. And then there's also the silos of data all over the place, and no integration. So you've got a system over here and you got a system over there, and there's another one here, and none of them are talking to each other. And so to try to get a picture of what's going on, there's a lot of manual time that's spent. So when you're looking at software, basically what you have to sort of think about is, why are you looking, and what kind of software would you be looking at? What are you trying to accomplish? But you got to start with where you are right now. And so you have to look at, is it financial management, accounting software that you need to replace? Well, where are you spending your time? Same thing with the, grants management, donor management. Where are you spending your time right now? What is all of the manual outside of the system work that's being done? You have to quantify that, and it's really not that hard to do. And you need to look at, what is the important decision that you're spending that time on to make, that you need to pull the information together for, and where's the bottlenecks happening. If you took a donation that came through and you wanted to look and understand how does that flow through, you have to understand that. And you really want to also look at, what is the critical information that's vital for your organization, for you to make decisions, key decisions for your organization. What programs are being funded and are fully funded versus those programs that are not fully funded, and you have operating funds that are covering those shortfalls. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you want it to be a conscious decision, not an accidental decision that at the end of the year or at the end of the program or grant, you don't have the funds needed, and now you're taking out of your operating funds or out of endowment income. So you think about that. You also want to think about, strategically for your organization. I am a huge believer in strategic planning, and we work with organizations in that regard as well. And a lot of times organizations, their strategic planning is really sort of a shorter term view, and we really tie it back to being mission critical, and we look at technology in your systems and how they have to support that. So that deliver scale for growth, that's part of your strategic planning, and where are you going to be and what are you going to be doing for your organization. You're going to go through a sales process, and the key to that is what I'm talking about here, is that discovery. And whoever you're going to be talking to, vendor, if you will, for that software solution, they have to go through discovery. And the more you know and share with them, the better that process is going to be. And I know a lot of times we have a resistance, a fear about sharing our information, because we are concerned that it's going to give the vendor, the partner, the consulting firm, the software publisher, information that is going to maybe jump up the price, right? But if you're working with a reputable firm who knows nonprofits, they understand budgetary constraints, and they should understand, based on the type of organization you are, what your needs are. And so really having that clear, open conversation with them about what are your pains that you're dealing with right now. That couple of slides that I showed back further on, about, we're spending hours in Excel every week. It takes us 60 days to close our books. Our donor management and development doesn't have the visibility to the information they need for the fundraising activities that are so vital to our organization, whatever it might be. And you want to really start with, envisioning, what do you want to have your ideal solution do? And here again, working with the right firm, or this resource that everyone has right here, nonprofit resource hub, getting together and using the joint experiences of everybody to help you envision. Because a lot of times when we talk to organizations, they can envision because they don't know what they don't know. And so it's really hard to envision. And so really partnering up and thinking about what is possible out there. that can be huge, and the impact of what that might have on what you're doing and what processes can actually be automated. A lot of times we imagine that the manual process we have right now, we don't realize, oh my gosh, that could be totally automated. Another thing hugely important is about company culture. I am I have such a strong belief about the importance of your organization culture and thinking through how that culture is. And it's really hard because we are risk adverse. Decision making may be spread across a number of different parties and management teams. IT resources are important, but differently than they used to be, years ago. Years ago, it was servers, and the IT was basically managing your servers and your connections and all of that. And now with the SaaS cloud solutions, IT has a different role. And so that has to be understood, what investment you're making in IT currently and how that role will change. And maybe those investments might be able to be utilized differently. The number of people accessing the system. Today, it is about the user experience and visibility to information. And here again, this is a paradigm shift because historically, organizations we've thought about, well, HR is HR and HR owns the data and your employees don't get there. If you need something, you reach out to HR. That's not the case anymore. It's about self-serve. Same thing with finances. It is all about dashboards and giving your program managers, directors, senior leadership, board, CPA, direct access to be able to get to the information that they need and should see, and what they shouldn't see, they don't have access to. So thinking about, the different points in your organization, touch points in your organization, here again, this is another area that you can talk to people and they'll be able to help you envision how that might work. And then the integration, hugely important. Those days of having these siloed systems for real are gone. And so the software that is there today gets and talks to different systems. And this is almost a prerequisite of the systems that are out today, and especially in the cloud. So best practices. So you've gone through, you've looked at what your needs are, your pain points, and we have a template we are happy to share to help organizations get started on this for that whole section 1. So now you're ready, you've done your homework, and you're ready for software selection. And FYI, that first step typically runs 1 to 2 months. It's, not a year-long process. So now you're ready to start thinking about the software, and you've identified, okay, we're going to bring in a new software. So what makes projects successful? And right now, still, projects that are challenged or failure, the percentage is still really fairly high. And failure is quantified as over budget, didn't get live on the timeline we anticipated, and or didn't achieve the goals that we identified going into the project. And that's a really key one. And this is part of this envisioning. Your organization is investing what I call the 3 T's, time, talent, and treasury. Very, very important. So you need to make sure you get your ROI after any project goes in. And it doesn't matter how small it is or what type. So some of the characteristics of successful projects. And these are consistent. It doesn't matter what size organization you are a part of. You want to involve your end users. The days of senior leadership making a decision from on high, those days are really gone, and they should be. True success comes from a collaborative effort. You absolutely need to get executive buy-in. You need to have your executive team and your board engaged in being on board with the new project and being the ones waving the flag for success going forward. I talked about the envisioning clear goals. You have to understand, what do we want to achieve? We're spending this money. What do we want to achieve? And what is our ROI savings, right? And typically new software goes in, there is absolutely an ROI for the organization in terms of the time savings, in terms of actual treasury dollars, and the resources, everything. But it's got to be done the right way. And a project team, if you're a small organization, you might be every single one of these roles, and that's totally normal. If you're a large organization, you're going to have different groups as part of the different aspects of this. The project schedule and project team, the schedule is like the project plan, and any project that you undertake, you have to have intent with it, right? You're going to have success, you got to have intent. So understand, what you need when we're talking about the different software. And so functional requirements. There's a lot of great softwares out there. And most of the leaders, you went and looked for a particular software, you're going to have 2 or 3 leaders. And for real, they're all going to be really close, and they're all going to have most of the functionality that you and your organization would be looking for. That's the name of the game. So when we look at software, the first thing we look at as a decision point for our clients is, do you look at a suite where everything is wrapped into one, and by that I mean, CRM, donor management, payroll, whatever the back office functionality is that you need. Is it a suite version, or is it what we call a best in class? Now, for nonprofits, my experience, 30 years, is we're a best of class probably 90% of the time. And the reason for that is because our clients just have unique needs across their functional areas of the organization. And we find that the suite either doesn't fulfill the depth of functionality needed by the specific groups, or they are, they just don't have the functionality or connectability to the applications that are still operational in the organization. So we are a proponent of the best in class. Here again, it's about collaboration and about looking at the different applications your organization has, but you want to sort of give thought to that. What are the functional areas that you want to operate within? You also want to look at, we're talking about, procurement and, your purchasing process. How is that process going to happen? When you come through the functional requirements, if it's HR, I need to have really expansive benefits management and functionality, because we have unions workers as part of our organization. And so we have many different deduction types. These are the kind of things that when you're thinking about your functional requirements for the solution you want to bring in, you really need to think about those deeper, complex items that are unique into what you're needing. Because, as I said, 80 to 90% of the general functionality, all the solutions have it. So that's not going to be your differentiator. I mentioned about, the integration aspects. If you have different applications, that's very important. And then the flexibility to really configure solutions to your organization's needs. One of the things that has really come about over the last couple of years, especially within the not-for-profit environment, is there is a sort of like a goal of sort of getting everybody in the same box, in the same workflow, in the same standardization. And this is not being done by the nonprofit space. It's actually being done by the software vendors and publishers, because that makes it easier to sell, easier to implement. And that's one of the things, like, I caution our clients about, is you really want to make sure when you're looking at any different softwares and the partner who's implementing it, are you going to get what you need configured for your organization, or are you going to get there standardized out of the box? And a lot of times that question never gets asked. You get into, oh my gosh, we can, be live and it'll only cost us this. But then you get live and you realize, well, wait a minute, I need X, Y, and Z. And now you've added on additional money later on. So you really, the flexibility and process aspect, you really want to understand it. The new software, everything is cloud and truly cloud. So you really want to understand, is the software written from the ground up for the cloud? You'd think that this would be an automatic given, but that's still not the case. We still have a lot of software publishers who are in the process of rewriting their applications into true multi-tenant cloud. So you have to make sure you know and can have the conversations and understand that aspect of it. Is this product written from the ground up, and how long has it been out there, and how many users does it have, and what's this functionality that I'm going to get out of that application? Hugely important here. I like to talk and say to organizations, the nonprofit space has sort of been discovered, if you will, over the past few years. I've been working with nonprofits for almost 40 years, but now it's great that the visibility has come into the nonprofit space. But that means that there are a lot of players in the market space. And when you're looking at any kind of implementation or systems, you really have got to do more of your homework so you're an educated buyer. And so you really want to understand, how long has the firm been in business, and not just in business overall, but specific to working with the nonprofit segment. How many nonprofit organizations do they have? A lot of times they'll say users. You really want to get to organizations. And what percentage of those organizations is of their total? So if they have 200 clients, you want to ask, well, how many of those are nonprofit organizations? And, or what percentage of those are nonprofit organizations, and how long has that been the case? Because just as with many of the softwares, there are many vendors that are out there that are new to this. The uptime and guarantees, you want guarantees on everything. I mean, for real, you want everything. You got guarantees on the software and the uptime and the support and the implementation services. You want it all guaranteed. Who owns the data? They'll all say you own the data pretty much now, but then you want to dive in a little deeper and understand, is it, I own the data, but to get to it, I've got to spend a bunch of money in order to get to my data. So you want to think about that. Updates per year, and how are they handled? What kind of impact? I talked about the support program, very important, and partner programs. I'm a very big proponent of working through a partner when you're working with any implementations. Here again, this came from my own experience. If you're working only with the publisher, you've only got one place to go, and you're already working with them. And so you are SOL. And, they're about developing software. Publishers are about developing software. So a partner is a very important aspect, and I just can't stress that enough. If you're not working with a partner, you should ask, do whatever software you're looking at, do you have a partner program? Are there some partners I can speak with? Online resources. There are great resources for software. There's G2, there's Trusted Advisor, and all the softwares are rated on these. And these sites are done through not the publisher giving their own reviews, or you know, some consultant that's been paid money to give a review. Users go in and give the reviews, and so they're really very, very great for checking out on the software. And here again, this goes back to the very beginning about a description of your requirements. And you know, as I said, like, we have lists of sort of the minimum requirements on software that we are happy to share with clients who are evaluating different softwares. Because a lot of times, if you've been on your software for 20 years, you won't know what is an expectation that should be there for the new software for you. Demo script. A demo script doesn't have to be anything complicated. All it needs to be is something that you can ensure that you're driving, and that when you look at any of the software solutions, that you're looking apples to apples. So if you're looking at 3 different software solutions and 3 different partners come in, they're all showing you something a little bit different. That's not going to help you in really assessing how they rate up against each other and score against each other. Absolutely call references. And I actually say to organizations, of course, references, people are going to give you the best references. That's the reason why I say use G2 or Trusted Advisor, or these sites. But also ask for a reference for a client who's currently in an implementation or has just come out of an implementation, not someone who's been on the software for 5 years only. Get some, you know, expand out the breadth of the references that you get. And then price. Now, the very first thing every organization looks to is price, and absolutely understand it. You know, we only work with nonprofit organizations. Price is hugely important. But here again, you really need to make sure that you're working with a partner who is a partner with you, and that you understand and talk about the price topic. Because software today, the number of variables that can occur in the price aspect are huge. And also because these are subscriptions now, the days of buying the box license are gone. These are subscriptions. And so we have heard many horror stories about organizations who got a great software subscription, you know, price for the first year, 2 years, and then just skyrocketed. And this is becoming more common, and it's just something to be very aware of, is get a clear understanding. I am all about getting discounts and the pricing that you can, but be, you know, buyer beware. Nobody is going to give something away for nothing or little and for a number of years. And so you just really have to be aware of that. Pricing is important, but first you really got to think about what's going to serve your organization long-term, addressing the problems that you have and meeting future needs at the lowest risk for your organization. You want project success, and at the most economical cost, not just the point of acquisition, but ongoing. So we're going to talk about implementation now. I spoke to this earlier. It is a very sad reality that the industry average on implementations is, not great. And it doesn't matter what kind of software you're talking about. And odds are, if anyone listening to this webinar has had any experience with an implementation, you have been in, in this experience here of either it hopefully didn't fail, but certainly challenged. So it's just being aware of everything you can that will give you a better opportunity for your project to be a success. And I spoke with that before. Do they work exclusively with nonprofits? Here again, I said almost every consulting firm now will work at nonprofits. They don't view nonprofits as any different than their for-profit clients. It's a client. And so they will have some people certainly that are, aligned to deliver the services on the nonprofit side, practice. But you really want to understand going in just what is the nonprofit practice in relation to the company as a whole. And here, I mentioned this earlier about how many implementations they've done, but not just the firm. You want to know about the consultant, and it's a single word, singular there, consultant. But if you are having only one individual assigned to your implementation, that is a warning sign. It's having all of your eggs in the basket of one person. And if you think about an implementation that takes a number of weeks or months, that's a risk area for you. So you really want to understand what is their implementation approach in general, and in the people that are assigned, what is their experience specifically. You want to get the types and sizes of organizations they've implemented, how many they've done per year, hugely important fixed fee projects. And a fixed fee project means that they're saying to you, we're going to implement this software on this timeline for this fixed amount of money, not hourly. They're not giving you a range of hours. They're saying it's going to be $50,000. That alone is not enough. You need to have them detail for you in the scope of work what it is you're going to get for that fixed fee. Because the worst thing that can happen is you're reading it, and here again, you don't know what you don't know. So talking with others who have utilized the software or that firm is very important, because you don't want to have someone coming back and saying, well, in order to continue, we need this done, and that wasn't in your scope of work, so now you have a change order. And this is more and more prevalent, especially since, as I was talking about earlier, they have this standardized kind of implementation configuration more and more today. So you really want to make sure that you understand what it is you're getting. And this is why I have this word partnership there. Right from the moment you start working with someone in the evaluation process, that's when the partnership is starting. So you want to get a feeling for whatever firm you're working with about who they are, how they operate, what commitments they're making, because that carries all the way through, not just in terms of buying the software, but through the implementation as well. And you want to understand their implementation methodology. What's the staging of it, the typical timeline, what resources are they putting to it, and what do they expect from you and your team? Because as I always say to organizations, you have full-time jobs already. And so you want to make sure that that implementation partner is being responsible for every single thing they should be on your behalf. I spoke about this. You want them to be nonprofit experts as much as possible. Nonprofits are unique. You will start to hear people say, well, yeah, but not really. No, I'm sorry. Every nonprofit we work with, there are unique aspects to every single one. We've served over 2,000 clients. There are absolutely unique aspects to every single one. Scale to handle your project. This goes to the bench, right? You want to know who's going to be working on your team and on your project, but you also should know, okay, well, how many consultants do you have overall? And are they used to working with organizations like your organization, your particular, if you're a social service organization or a, arts and culture or an education, you need to understand how much experience they have. And then complex requirements. Every organization that we work with, there are unique aspects to what they're doing and how they're doing them. And you want to ensure that to every extent possible that your partner is going to be able to watch out for your best interests. This is their full-time job, implementing systems. And so they should be able to have visibility to wherever the areas are that might trip up organizations. They should be able to see around the corners. Their team shouldn't be learning for the first time with you. And so this is here again, understanding about the requirements. So how long does this process take? Well, it's interesting. Software implementations used to be a pretty lengthy process, be 8 months to a year, and sometimes 18 months, depending on the size of your organization, the type of your organization. Well, this is another area where the cloud SaaS implementations have changed that up. Typically projects can run between 4 and 6 months. And they also are, this says phase, but these are actually stages in a implementation. I like to use the word phase as a process of bringing on more expansive functionality over time. So when you're going into any project, you should be thinking about it is you can have your cake and eat it, but not all in one sitting. Success really, and I think I have some slides on this further out. Success comes from a phased approach. And then each phase has these stages. And so you've bought the software and now you're in stage 1 and it's discovery. And you've had some high level discovery during the buying process. But now when you're in implementation, that's when a deep dive comes through and processes are looked at in depth to really understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, and most importantly, why you're doing it. Because here again, anytime you implement a new system, you are going to be implementing a new and streamlined processes. It is absolutely going to happen. It's the benefit of implementing software. But in order to have those new streamlined processes, you have to really understand not just how they're happening, but most importantly, why they're happening. You got to peel the onion and get an understanding of it. Once that discovery phase happens, then the consulting firm will go back and design the application. They will build out the application, do their own validation testing of the build, and then they will bring it out for what's called UAT, or user acceptance testing and training. Now, I always tell organizations, to every extent possible, you want your training and user acceptance testing being on your own design, not on a demo design or a sandbox that really is not specific to you. And this is because this is your opportunity to really get your hands on the software, not to just get trained, but to vet yourself that what has been designed and built is actually going to work for your organization. So that phase 4 is hugely important, and you really want to understand going in what that process is, and you're going to have a database that really is yours and not sort of like a standard out of the box one. As I mentioned, the key thing in that discovery is taking your business knowledge of your organization and your practices and your processes and the new software coming in, and the end result is you get new, improved, streamlined, automated business processes. Project management, hugely important. This is one that you want to really clearly understand. Whatever partner you're working with, what are they providing in terms of project management resources? At JMT, we understand, we work with nonprofits, that our clients, probably better than 85% of them, do not have project management resources available, and they can't afford to even bring them on board. So we have to be the project managers for our clients as well as for JMT. So we have a very clear pattern. This includes what we consider required, that there are weekly status updates, that there are milestones, that there's a very clear project plan and timeline and tasks and responsibilities and sign-offs to make sure, okay, we're on track, things are getting done the way it's supposed to. Larger organizations will have a steering committee where the execs once a month will get a high-level overview. How's the project doing? Is it on track? Testing scripts, hugely important. Testing, we really don't do parallel testing anymore. Right now, testing is done in sort of micro mini groups. And so we include scripts to help our clients go through and get their hands on the system. The project plan I talked about, and then training, education, very, very important aspect. And it's not ever that, okay, you get 5 days of training. If they tell you that, that's a problem. That doesn't work. Training and learning is an iterative process, and you have to make sure that your implementation, here again, regardless of the software, you need to make sure your team's going to be successful and get the training and support they need. And there's not too many people that can see something one time and they've got it. Project plan, really want to see a project plan and have access to it. Should be shared online, because here again, partnership. So you want to be able to work together with that project and have visibility to who's doing what, when it's due, right? It's all about expectation and accountability. Learning the system, here again, I touched on that a little bit. How is training delivered? Well, it used to be pre-COVID that even if we wanted to do remote learning, our clients didn't want it. They wanted us on site. And one of the biggest paradigm shifts that COVID had, impacted in the technology was that it's a realization that done right, remote learning is actually more successful for an organization and the users than being on site. And we knew that because we've been had remote workers for 30 years. We onboard people, everything remote. But for our clients, that concept they couldn't even envision it. And so 2020 brought that home. I mentioned about the system used for training and education. Very important. You need your own system. Your team absorption of learning will be significantly negatively impacted if it's not done with your own data and your own system. That is just a reality. The amount of training that you get, here again, as I mentioned before, you really need to understand, are they coming back and saying, well, you're going to get 3 days of training, 5 days of training. Well, that's not good enough. You need to understand exactly what you're getting, how it's being delivered, what are the limitations on it. There should be a milestone where you sign off on the training. There should be a training script and guarantees. This is all standard types of things. My closing advice is, implementing a new system is a scary thing. And majority of the time when we talk to organizations, they will say they don't have the time, it's not a good time, they don't have the resources, they don't have the budget for it. A new system, you're spending money and your resources and time right now working within a system that probably isn't giving you what you need. And it probably hasn't been giving you what you need for quite a while. The benefits always outweigh the pain of change. And it's tough changing. Systems can be implemented in as little as 60 days for like a phase 1. So being able to move from no information or having to work for hours outside of a system in manual schedules and Word and PowerPoints and Excels to get information that you need in visible format that you need, you're spending all that time right now, your team is. So it absolutely 100% will be a benefit to your organization. So you should start the process of evaluating and vetting things right now. Don't wait. You might not be ready to do a project for a year, but you've got time then to use to do your homework and start pulling together what it is that you need to consider for making a change. There are lots of benefits, a tremendous number of benefits to looking at it. And so it just takes that first step and being open to envisioning what it might mean for your organization. So, questions? Okay, this is a great group.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, Jackie. You really pulled back the curtain on a lot of good information, things we need to look out for. One of the things I liked was that you said you can quantify your return on investment, which I think will speak to people. And I also appreciate the red flags you gave us to look out for as far as implementation, et cetera.
Thanks, Jim. Well, I totally get it. It can be a scary process for organizations. And as I said, I sat on the other side of the table. So I implemented 4 systems before starting JMT, and my experience wasn't a pleasant one. So, I learned over time.
I think we have a question in the chat. You can see that.
Yes, timeline to successfully execute implementation. Okay, that's a great question. So it depends on the type of solution that you're looking at, whether it's HR or payroll or accounting or whatever it might be. Nowadays, 4 months. We really consider 4 months for a initial go live as a reasonable timeline. Here again, it will really depend on the partner that you're working with. And a lot of times, and this is a great question also, because a lot of times, even the partners will look at it and they'll look at the, I talked about the whole cake and you can't eat it all at once. And they will look at it and say, okay, it's the whole cake. And they won't go live with the system until everything is perfect. And that is not smart at all, not smart at all. So I always tell clients, you really want to look at projects in a phased approach, because in order for your team to really be successful, they first need to, it's what we call the crawl, walk, run. They first need to get familiar enough and they start crawling, right? And before you start introducing something new. Once they're comfortable, now your phase 2 comes in and you say, okay, now we're ready for this. And phase 2 happens even better because now they've had phase 1. So they're educated and feeling comfortable. So you really want to keep that in mind, but 4 months is our typical experience. I can absolutely share the template that I referred to earlier. I don't know if I have I don't. My email is tiso, T-I-S-O, at JMT Consulting. You can also go on our website. I'm on one of those pages out there with my email address. I'll be happy to share it with anyone who, reaches out.
I believe it's going to be taped. It's taped on the Nonprofit Resource Hub website, so you can always go there for that and all kinds of information.
Excellent.
Here's another question.
Oh, this is a great question too. I love these questions. Okay, so correct. If you're implementing donor management fundraising software, you absolutely need to look at your fundraising calendar. Do you have a gala? You have to look at your calendar and then determine when is your downtime. And remember, if we took it a 4-month timeline, right, to get live, well, you could be doing some prep work before the gala and after the gala, but you want to have it at that open period where your team is not overwhelmed. And also, vacation schedules and things like that. A lot of times, organizations will look at, the summer, and a lot of your team may be taking off during the summer, and especially if you're an organization that has a 6/30 year end and you're putting in a financial accounting package, right? That's the other thing. If you're looking at financial management accounting software, I always recommend to clients that you do not do a go live at the start of your fiscal year. And here again, this is from personal experience. Your team learning a new software and, not being comfortable at the same time that you're closing off the books and trying to get ready for your audit is not a good plan.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yes, it's really horrendous. Yeah. So I always tell organizations, you really, when it comes to financial accounting, a mid-year or 4 months after you started your new fiscal year is the optimal time. And if you do that, you want to make sure that your data, your detailed data, comes over so that from your old system, so you're not working in two different systems, right? In order to get information, you got to have your data brought over.
All right. Last question. Team training declines using a new software.
Yes, so we have team training, and then individual training, and what it looks like really depends on what we're doing the education on. Typically, what we do is, and this is JMT, so this is one of the things you'd want to ask others about, is we're in a remote environment. So we will pick a particular item, function that we're doing the training on, and we will demonstrate it, and then we will have the team demonstrate it and go through it. So it is not that environment where you just sort of have the instructor at the front of the room in a webinar talking and showing it to you. We are having you do hands-on, and we're looking at it and we're there so that everyone in the group can share what they're doing, any trouble they're having. So it's very much a back and forth kind of environment. It's on the new software. And as I said, in the client's database, because that's hugely important, especially, when you're talking about reports training or, creating some vendor or customer. You need to have it in your database.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jackie.
No problem.
This was great. Thank you for everyone who attended also. We're going to be sending a survey. If you could fill it out, we'd appreciate it, because it's about you and your feedback and what we can do to tell or make things that are helpful. I'm going to refer to the website again. When you get a chance, head over there, tool around, as opposed to just looking for maybe a specific thing. Get familiar. There are a lot of good resources, a lot of good people. If you have questions, reach out to Danette O'Connell. Thanks again, Jackie. Our next webinar is June 24th at noon. And the topic is understanding copier leases, 5 tips to save money for your nonprofit. And the guest speaker is Jacqueline Morse, Vice President of AM Executive Business Machines. And again, you can register, as you did for this one, at the nonprofitresourcehub.org. Great information. Thank you. And have a good day, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Jim.
Take care.